Hey, everybody. Welcome to Popular Unknown Paintball Live. And glad to have you all on today. Sorry I'm running a little bit behind. And by a little bit behind, I'm talking about 1 day and 12 minutes behind. But it's been an interesting couple of days, and I've been busy, and lots been going on. But I wanted to make sure I still created the show, and I still wanted to have this happen. And yeah, I just wanted to hang out with you guys. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, there we go. Got that fixed. Perfect. And hey, Connor, good to see you. By the way, everybody, Connor from Australia says hey, so hey back. Yeah, so I don't have a guest tonight. I'm hoping that tonight's show will be a little more interactive. Hey, Kenny, I hope tonight's show is going to be a little more interactive with people talking. Oh, I got to say, David Cammy, dude. So don't tell me, David, let me guess, the explosion freaked you? Happens to a lot of people. Anyway, so tonight's show, I don't have a guest. I just want to talk to you guys quickly about hot rod paintball guns. Hey, Kevin, great to see you on. And oh, we got somebody here saying, hopes it's all good. Well, can't always all be good, but you know what? I'm online. I'm here with you, my friends, and doesn't get any better than that for right now, right? But anyway, so tonight's show, I want to talk about hot rod paintball guns. But before I do, I've been meaning to show this shirt for a while, and I've been doing some house cleaning, and I haven't seen it for a bit. And check this out. So this is such jersey that you probably have never seen. There might be a few. And for those that have seen it, there was only about 40 of these made. When I played Skyball, and I had this patch put on, when I played Skyball, I was actually on the Leader Goggle Factory team. And these were custom made by, I believe it was called Visionware. And it's a thin denim, but all the Z's were, yeah. Now this is kind of neat because it's all cotton. I don't know if you can see this here, but I'm not as small as I used to be. But there's zippers. And so that zippers all the way down to here. And they did that so that when you were playing, you weren't overheating because, well, you know how the new modern jerseys are very light and the air blows through and it's good. But yeah, so this was a rare jersey. And I don't really remember seeing any other jerseys actually made by Vision Gear. So this is a pretty rare little jersey. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not. I may send it out to somebody and have it go to a museum or something. Who knows? But yeah, this is my official team jersey from Skyball 1. This patch wasn't on it. I got this patch at Skyball and I had it stitched on just because I thought it was cool. So that's not original, but yeah. So anyway, so that's my little plug for the jersey. And we got Matt Hop saying, Steve, how goes it? Like I said, I'm on with my friends. And we got Kenneth. Man, I love your Zodiac packs, and I'm glad that they come in 3-packs now. I got to get my one of those. So everybody out there, if you haven't tried one of Kenneth's Zodiac packs, Kenneth, reach out to Kenneth and ask about his Zodiac packs because the flaps, they don't have any Velcro, and so it holds it up, but it's completely silent in the woods. I love it to death. Anyway, moving on. And we got a Facebook user saying, hey, Steve-O. Hey, back. I'm not sure who you are, Facebook user, but good to hear you. And we got Hanson saying, sorry, stream wanted, yard wanted Perdish again. Yeah, it tends to want that. And was Leader Z bought by V-Force or did they become V-Force? I don't know the answer to that, Kevin. I kind of with the understanding that it has absolutely nothing to do with it. They just got into paintball. They got horrible reviews. They were nasty masks. And they left, and the paintball is better for it. But that being said, proud of the jersey, proud that I got to play with them. But back then, those Leader goggles, oh, they were like they looked like golf balls on your head. Like they were nicknamed the TIE Fighter goggle. They were these big round, like there was nothing that had even come close to the amount of peripheral view these had. But they were these giant bubbles, and after a while, they would just crack and fracture, and it was just. So yeah, anyway, and he goes, Spike's Museum could use it. I bet it could. Hey, Andy, good to see you on. And we got somebody here saying, hi, hope all is well. Yeah, everything's good. Thank you so much. I'm here with all my friends, right? And I said, hope it's warm where you are, minus 50 here with the wind. Actually, tonight with wind, it's going to minus 22. So no, I understand that minus 50 is much colder than minus 22, but minus 22 is still flipping cold, and I would rather it be warmer. But it is what it is. That's Canada. Yay. And we got somebody here saying virtues and leaders were the bomb back then. No, they really weren't, Andrew. No, I didn't really like them much, but when I had the opportunity to play for the factory team, they're like, we're giving you free goggles, we're giving you a jersey, and we're paying for your play. Will you play with us? The answer is yes. It's always yes. But yeah. And we got one here. You live where the air is trying to kill you. Yes, that's exactly what we do. So, but yeah. So like I said, tonight's show is going to be a little bit different. Probably won't be as long because it's just me talking with all of you out there. And I think that's awesome. But I wanted to talk about hot rodding paintball guns. And so just so we're completely clear, when I say hot rod, I mean the true definition of hot rod. All right. So I actually looked it up. And if you will take a look there under verb, it says modify a vehicle or other device to make it faster or more powerful. Keywords is you are modifying it to make it faster or more powerful. It's not simply just fancy. It's got to be modified. So prime example. So this is my shocker. And this is one of 15, and it is a ultra shocker done by Caesar out of Detroit. And the thing's gorgeous. I mean, I love this shocker to death. It has dual frames, whatnot. But essentially, this is a stock gun. Like, is it fancy? Absolutely. It's got all the bells and whistles. But it is just a stock gun. It's got stock engines. All right. So this is not a hot rod. It's just not, because it shoots exactly the same as every other shocker out there, as long as they put the Ultra Silk boom treatment on it, because this has the boom treatment on it, and it does make it a little more efficient. But essentially, though, this is not a hot rod because this is a stock gun. So if we're going to talk about hot rods, we got to get on a proper hot rod. So I grabbed this just to explain the difference. This is a hot rod. This is an autococker, as you all know, but this has the E-frame, the E-blade on it. So this will shoot much faster, and you can control it much more than a stock autococker. You put an E-blade up against a well-timed E-blade up against a well-timed regular cocker, and an E-blade will outshoot it every single time. It just will. And that's what I mean by hot rods. Now, when we're talking about, and this has been bugging me for a while, and this is the reason why I brought it up. Markers today, like the CS2, which are gorgeous, and the Luxes and whatnot, they're just amazing, straight out of the box, factory. They're just awesome. They're also about $2,000, depending on where you live and whatnot. And I am not putting it down. They're worth every single penny. But if you put up a modern CS2 versus, say, I don't know, 2004 Intimidator or one of the early Egos, things like that. I'm just picking numbers here. The main difference between markers of then and markers now is that current markers are about this much more efficient, and they're much easier to take apart, and they're much easier to clean. That's the thing. Like, I mean, this will get about I believe it's 8 pods plus the loader, and then if I want to take it apart to clean it, I just push the button and the engine comes out and I can clean it. Super simple. And that's that's that. But if you try to do something like this with an old shocker, you can't do it. Like you got to take out screws and whatnot, and it's just a pain. And then when you start looking at the new Mac devs, which are just awesome, with the magnetic eyes and stuff like that, it's amazing. But if you think about old paintball guns, like especially if we start talking about this was a basic autococker, and then a company Planet Eclipse, they created the E-blade and they created their own frames, and that was awesome. Now, back in the 90s, if you wanted to upgrade or you wanted to hot rod your paintball gun, because autocockers were hot rodded left, right, and center. Mags, not so much, because their internals are just internals. I mean, you could modify them a little bit, but there wasn't much to do with mags. They just shot fast as is. You just had to tighten them up a little bit. But with autocockers, you hot rodded them completely. Like everything got swapped out. But back then, you used to be able to buy all new frames and whatnot. And so what I'm thinking is, why aren't companies today building parts to hot rod paintball guns? Like, let's think about some early, the die matrices, for example. They are complete gas pigs, but they shoot absolutely amazing. You know, the reg in the front is solid. Like, so they've got a good reg. They've got a good solid body. They've got excellent barrels, you know, and barrels can be swapped out anyway. But why can't you get an interchangeable, let's call it a core for lack of a better word. I'm stuck on that in my head. Kind of way people are arguing how the 170R and the new Shocker amp have very similar engines, as it were. But why can't we get modern day engines to fit in older markers? You know, like why can't we do that? Planet Eclipse themselves, they made a majority of their money. Like, they were starting building little aftermarket parts and whatnot for upgrading paintball guns, and they did amazing. And that's how the company started. And then they started creating the E-blade, and that made them so much money. We got Flip here asking me where I got that TM40 blend. I ordered that from Social Paintball, I believe. Yeah, so that's been there for a while. I actually was wearing it at World Cup. So thank you for asking. But yeah, right there. But no, seriously, why can't we order aftermarket frames, like trigger frames and stuff? And why can't we order aftermarket engines? I mean, if you think about it, the only company that really hot rods out there right now, really, that I can think of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, like send it up in the comments, but Adrenaline makes aftermarket hot rod vehicles. Like they modify the engine and they modify stuff, and it's all approved by Smart Parts. Well, not Smart Parts, but Shocker and Lux and yada DLX. But why can't we order parts for older guns to hot rod them up? You know, like, these guns were thousands of dollars when they were made. And all right, so Connor's got a comment here. It says, and nobody wants to do it because the design is stagnated. See, I don't believe that. I understand what you're saying, but I don't believe that. Because at the end of the day, do you want to look cool or do you want to win? Because winning is cool. You know what I mean? Like, and if you could get an old die matrix for a couple $100, and then you could throw in a modern day core and a modern day board, like something from Sci-Fi, and you could drop those into these guns, it may not be as easy to clean out, but you would you'd be investing $500 for a gun that would be top of the line. The body's already made, the regulator is on, it's already there and excellent. Like, it's a solid a solid performing thing. We got somebody here saying lawsuit, cease and desist would get tossed around. It can only happen if they were breaking patents and stuff. But I mean, if you think about hot rods, I mean, you go to any Chevy dealership, Ford dealership, or what's it called? Chevy dealership, Ford dealership, Chrysler, whatever. You can buy crate motors and you can drop them into your hot rod. So if you take an old discontinued paintball gun that they don't make anymore, that they don't make them anymore, and they're not supporting them anymore, why can't you do what you want with it? You just get the old body, throw in a brand new engine that's just built to kick, and go. Like, I mean, I miss benchmark frames because I love a 45 grip frame. I am not knocking I'm not knocking this grip frame at all, but it's very small and it's very thin. Oh yeah, by the way, you guys see the 40 on there too? Yeah. But it's very thin. And I just prefer a nice 45 beefy grip. And then these grips are nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love these grips. But when I customize a gun, I like to be able to put my own grip on it, and getting 45 grips, like for a 45 pistol and like the aftermarket grips and whatnot, you can't get those anymore. Like, do you remember when Virtue, not Virtue, maybe it was Virtue and Hybrid, they would have those grips that would have like either the girls on them or the grenades or like the AK-47s, things like that. And you could have all the designs on like brass knuckles, whatnot. And you could do that and you could just swap grips out and make it look cool. Like the Automag up there, it's got a 45 grip. And I've got purple glitter grips that were made for me by Martin of the Booney Boys. And I just don't understand why we can't have hot rod parts. Like, I mean, if I wanted to get a 45 frame for this, why couldn't I? You know? Oh, I got Kevin Camacho going, die sticky grips. I gotta say, Kevin, I'm not a fan. Let me just click that up so here everybody can see it. I'm not a fan, but that being said, look what I got right here. Old school die sticky grips. But not the point. I actually got a few pair of these, but I prefer stuff like that. I don't like my grips to be that sticky, but I want to be able to have that option. I want to be able to make it my own. And I find that lacking in a lot of today's paintball guns. Okay, so we got Connor here saying we got, but it's still the intellectual property, and any mods might cause problems with their pattern unless it's been done where they have made 10% improvements to overall design. See, it's, I'm going to just read that one more time. Might cause problems, but you see, you're talking about a gun that was made 10, 15 years ago that's no longer supported. It's just a frame. You can't ding somebody for making a mod for an old gun, you know, and especially a frame. Like, forget engines for a second. Why can't we make a trigger frame that would slap onto this and it would just click in, and that would change the whole ergonomics of the paintball gun? So instead of having to stick with the stock frame, why can't I have a 45 frame like Benchmark used to do? And Benchmark used to make them for Spider and Autococker and Automag. Like, you just could. All right, we've got one here said, yeah, but if a company owns the valve and wants to drop it in a company B marker, then the company is making more off company B. All right, so that's a little mixed up. No offense. I'm just having a hard time reading the sentence structure there. But my point is, back then, things were modular. Like even the Automag, you can pull it out and you could get ANS backs for volume and you could swap things out. Paintball guns are modular. Why can't we why can't we just get parts? And I mean, Planet Eclipse literally based their company on making aftermarket parts for paintball guns. Like, and they made some of the best parts, so much so that they started creating their own guns, but they stopped making aftermarket parts. I just think, because that's been the history of paintball, since our markers are so modular, why can't we create aftermarket grips or frames, I should say? And more importantly, if you go into egos, one of the biggest problems with egos is a lot of people will shy away from older egos because it's hard to replace the Noid or rebuild it, whatnot. There's no reason why an aftermarket company couldn't create an aftermarket frame with an aftermarket Noid and bring them all back to life, the same way that Planet Eclipse created the E-Blade and brought all the autocockers back to life for 2-3 more seasons. I would just love to see that. And I'd say, okay, so, but the pattern on the marker might still have a current pattern on it. I think you mean patent. It's possible, but if you own the marker and it's no longer supported and you're building something different to go in it that is more efficient, it's just an aftermarket part that you're swapping on. You know, like, I mean, nobody says anything about you changing the knobs, or nobody says anything about aftermarket triggers. Why can't you do a whole frame? You know, like, it's modular. I don't understand why paintball companies have stopped making parts. Like, I would love to see Planet Eclipse, because I think they're brilliant. I would love to see Planet Eclipse start making aftermarket engines for some older paintball guns that are out there. Like, I would love to see the old die markers, like the old die matrices, with a brand new engine in them that brings them back to life, and then throw in a new board for like a sci-fi board, bring in a new board that's programmable, and now you've got a full-on monster killer for under $600, I would guess, when all's said and done. Like, you know, I'd love to see it. What we got here? Just need a Palmer Typhoon and you're ready to rock. I don't think you can swap barrels in Typhoon. So you got to have the little, I don't think the barrels in a Typhoon are swappable for paint these days. You have, I don't know. Custom with polymers, custom still means something. So I'm sure they make something that makes it more paint friendly. And then we got Z Lime grips. See, there's my point. Why can't we get Z grips for, let's say, a CS2? Like, why can't somebody make a brand new frame that will modify your gun to help your playing style, and you can change the ergonomics to the way you want it? Why do we have to stick with the ergonomics the way they are? I don't understand that. All right, we got here. That's why I shoot automatic. Don't need to fix it when it ain't broken. It's not a question of whether it's broken or not. With an automag, you have the choice of 45 grips. You have the choice of the new 90 grips. Luke's Customs makes some pretty wild grips. You have the Z grips, the Y grips. You have options. An automag is modular, flat out. And that's exactly my point, Facebook user. You shoot the automag and you enjoy it, and that's fantastic. But you have the ability to change things out just after the fact, bolt them in, and you can change your automag to be anything you want. You want right feed, you want left feed, you want center feed. Do you want what's that thing? Come on, guys, help me out there. The Q loader, not the Q loader. The big pods that force fed it up from the side. Z loader, I think it was. But you know what I mean? Like, you can do that. It's not broken, but you have the ability to modify it and hot rod it as you see fit. You can use a set level 7. You can use a level 10. Warp feed. Thank you, user. Warp feed. Yes, sir. And Devin also can do warp feed. Thank you so much. But yeah, so somebody says there's no money in it. I'm calling BS on that, because there's so many paintball guns out there that people don't want to get rid of. They like the ergonomics. They like how it works. They like the classic look. They like the old school look. Why can't, and like I said, or like it's public record, actually, Planet Eclipse literally made their whole company on building aftermarket parts to hot rod paintball guns to soup it up, soup the speed up. They made the E-blades and whatnot, and they made all the aftermarket parts. That's how Planet Eclipse started. That's what got them famous in the first place. And then they were doing so well, making everybody's gear better, that they said, why don't we make one of our own? Adrenaline right now is doing it with shockers, and Adrenaline is doing extremely well. There's plenty of money in it, but they're only doing it specifically with shockers and with Luxes. But why can't somebody create something? Yeah, actually, there's a good thing there. Scott Underwood with all your Angels. Why can't there be somebody that says, okay, Angels are kind of hurting for this and that? I mean, there's some aftermarket companies that are building the battery mods, and there's some aftermarket companies that are like, I believe Sci-Fi is making new boards for the Angels. But why can't we get something that will, bring Intimidators up to bring the old Matrixes up to date, bring some of like a shocker, what is it, the RLX or the RSX or RXX? I mean, it is a horrible gas pig, but they look cool. Like they're just gorgeous. They got the big 45 frame. They're nice and beefy and whatnot. Why can't we get a slap-in engine? Even if Shocker themselves were like, hey, you know what? You've got this beautiful gun. You've got everything that works well. Why don't we just create a slap-in engine for you, and you can increase the efficiency? I mean, they're not having to make a whole gun. They're not having to make all the milling. The amount of money they invest is probably about the same amount as, like, when you consider profit margin. I just think it was. All right, so we got Devon saying, love the A5 over 15 years, still going strong. Yeah, but Devon, the A5, they had automatic electronics and stuff created for it, so that by Aardvark in Canada, by the way, just outside of Stratford, Ontario, but they had all electronics and stuff created, so you could hot rod an A5. You cannot hot rod a modern day gun. Every time everybody brings up the old guns, there was things that we could do with it. Okay, and we got Jake saying Enoch Paintball is the Angel board as well as the Purple People Eater. I'm not sure what the Purple People Eater is, Jake, so let me know about that. And Sci-Fi is working on most of those boards. Awesome. But it's not just the boards. I mean, you want to try to be able to increase the efficiency of the marker as well. And I just want a marker that shoots like a real marker. But you have markers that shoot like a real marker. You've shown me your Planet Eclipse Ego. And we got an 06 speed. Like, exactly. And all right, Robert, attempt number 3. Is my name here now? I'm going to go with yes. Yes, it is. And Aardvark Custom Paintball Products had this talk. We ran the numbers. It's just not worth it. I'm not sure who you are, Facebook user, because it just shows up as Facebook user. But it may not be worth it to you, but it's got to be worth it to somebody. So I think that would be. We got somebody here saying pew pew. And we got Steve, tell us another story. Well, I could, but I don't know what kind of story. I haven't got it prepped. I'm more interested right now to actually talk about hot rodded paintball guns. And I mean, do you guys have any paintball guns out there that you would like to be able to see brought back to, like specs, just because you liked how it played? Like, I mean, obviously the Angels. And we got Carl say, yes, it does shoot really good. I've been running Ultra Silk and it's like a Ferrari, right? Ultra Silk is awesome. Just awesome. All right. And we got, all right. So we got Scott saying one of the big things is most of this stuff is only available in the US and not up here in Canada. But why? the Matrix was launched by Richmond Italia for the most part. And then it was sold to Dye. And I mean, I'm not sure exactly who invented the Matrix originally, but Richmond Italia bought the gun and then made it what it was and then sold it to Dye. So forgive me a little bit if I go a little off track there. But Richmond Italian, who basically owns GI Sports, which is now Core Outdoor, he owns like 80% or 70% of Paintball as far as companies and whatnot goes. I mean, I'm pulling the 70% out of my butt, but it's a lot. Let's just leave it at a lot. And he's Canadian, so to say it's not available in Canada, I mean, most of the markets in the US, and it costs money to transport borders. But when we talked about Aardvark out of Stratford, I mean, they are here in Canada, just in Ontario. And there's other companies as well. I don't see why, as players, we can't create something. I mean, there's a gentleman, and his name escapes me right now. He's developed a brand new GoPro. I mean, he's machining a GoPro thing specifically for push goggles. So, and what we got? All the Booney Boys in the house, and we just show up as a Facebook user. You guys have to give StreamYard permission to use your name. All right, what we got? We are in the time of Mags and Cockertons. The time is now. Yes, it is, Jake. Yes, it is. And we got I want an autococker that's not going to cost me an arm and a leg. And we got one here that says, you want hot rods? I built a pump gun. You see, but a pump gun's a pump gun. Like, I mean, you're still building them up. And for aftermarket parts, well, Scott, like, I mean, if you contacted Trevor Van Dorser through Premium Paintball Products in Toronto, and I know there's other companies, but I just really like Premium and I really like Trevor. But if you contact them, they have a lot of contacts in the States and you can bring it up. And I also know that you can order directly from ANS because I've ordered a couple parts. Now, the prices are a little more expensive, but you can get them. So, and we got Daryl here. By the way, Daryl, I love you, dude. How many people would actually use the old markers, though, now, even if they had new guts? Well, if it goes toe-to-toe with a current marker, because most old markers will go toe-to-toe with current markers. The only difference is they have a little less air efficiency and they're a little harder to clean. They're not as easy to maintain. That's it. But as far as efficiency and reliability goes, they're amazing, just as long as you have the right parts. And I think that if you got an upgraded part, or an upgraded part was purchased or available, like, I mean, I know I would love a new trigger frame. I just would, like, even if they're not changing the engines, I would love a trigger frame for this that's a little more like a 45 that I could put my own custom grips on. Like, I love this thing to death. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful gun, but I miss having the options of modifying it on paintball guns. I miss having that option. All right, things are scrolling by here. Down they don't have much down there that ain't going to cost you deposit on a house. But Connor, that's my point though. Why can't you make it down there? I mean, Planet Eclipse started in England, and majority of paintball was in the States at the time, but they created their own company, their own machining, and they just went to it. All right. And just built, damned autocorrect with the word suggestions. And okay, we got here something. It's like, it's Jeff Thompson. All right. And Steve, it was my cover. Okay. It's not yours, Jeff. It was Paul's, Darnborough's, and now it's mine. And for everybody out there, if you watched my show about my favorite autocockers, he is talking about Bubbles. At least that's what I've named it. I don't know what Paul called it, but it is a Jeff Orr custom. Nearest I can guess, it's one of 7, and it has a bubble wrap ano. So the thing is black, but with these random dots that are like a metallic orange to a metallic gold fade in the dots themselves, and it's just wicked. And 3D printers allow you to get creative and build one-offs. And see, that's a very, very, very great concept. Now, I don't know how 3D metal printers would work. I don't know enough about them, so I can't really comment. But I honestly believe that you could rebuild a frame and create it the way you want it. Like it's got to be possible. The impossible only takes a little longer, as my dad used to love to say. And Devin Schwartz, JT Titman, JT Empire, Wargame Products, Spider, V Force is GI Sports. Well, GI Sports no longer exists. It's now Core, and you're missing a few there. They've got Zap. They've got, actually, I don't know if they got Zap, but they bought out National Paintball Supply and everything that they owned. They also bought Brass Eagle, which is still around to a certain degree. Like, there's lots of stuff. But yeah, it's huge. That's my point, Devin, and thank you very much. And we got Inception is doing that. Inception is doing that to a degree. He only does it on certain things. He makes, like, Simon makes some incredible stuff, and he has, I think he owns like 25 patents on things, but he's building custom bodies and whatnot. But it's not like he's building engines for a shocker. Do you know what I mean? Like he's building some aftermarket parts for looks, but he's not building engines that'll speed up old markers. E-Blade Cocker and Go to Town. Yes, Martin, we were talking about those. So, but that's exactly my point. Like, an E-Blade is an actual hot rod. They built something, Planet Eclipse created something to put on stock autocockers to make them just killers. And okay, we got, wonder what the younger generation could shoot an old school cocker. I don't know if their fingers are strong enough. And it depends on what you're talking about, old school. And isn't the CVO frame a 45? No, it is not. They are their own. One second. CVO frame. Got one right here. Match anodized with my gun. Oh, maybe it is. It kind of looks like a 45 frame. It feels different, though. But it may very well be. I'll have to take the rubber off and see if it'll accept a 45 grip. It just, see how it's kind of weird. So yeah, I'm gonna have to try that out. But regardless, it's not the point. It's like, don't get me wrong, I love my shocker. I'm not, and in no way, shape, or form am I putting it down. I would really like to be able to make things a little more modular and soup up some old gear. That's all. All right, we got I wish Planet made a low pressure chamber to take place of the external low pressure regulator. Having the barrel on my hand changes my aim point. I'm used to having a front block or a low pressure in my hand. See, there you go. There's something that you wish you could modify, right? And that's what I mean. And okay, we got sorry, Scott says drop down ASAP would be nice again, or ASA. There we go. Exactly. And what's my opinion on the Empire Resurrection? Never shot one, but I love autocockers, and considering it comes with a barrel kit and whatnot, I'm sure it's decent. And then it is modular, so if there's anything wrong with it, you can modify it the same way you modified an old autococker. So I would love to get my hands on one. I would love to give one a try. I've heard good things. Jake, if you're still out there listening, I'd love to hear your opinion on that, because I mean, I'm sure you've cleaned and timed and done a bunch, but I've never actually had my hands on a Resurrection, so I can't say one way or the other. And Connor says I can. And then Jeff Thompson's talking about short stroking. Yeah, old cockers with the old three ways that had a whole lot of play and slop. They were a completely different animal than modern autocockers. And okay, we got Jeff Thompson. I love my res. Oh, there we go. If Jeff, you want to write on something bigger, we can comment about that. And that's basically Inception's design right there, the Resi. It is and it's not. They were making them, like, they made the guns, but it's not their design. Like, it's The autococker was designed by Bud R for the most part. There's a whole history thing, and I don't know enough about that whole conspiracy theory, but for the most part, let's just all agree for now that Bud Orr brought out the Wargame Products autococker. And then after the fact, there was so many upgrades and modifications that could be had. It was absolutely amazing. But he didn't design, like, I mean, he laid it out, he created it, but it's an autococker. Like it's just an autococker. It's not, like, that's war game products, but there's so many different bodies that were created, so many different aftermarket parts, and there were so many what went with it. I give Simon so much credit for so many great things. He did amazing. And but yeah, you can't give Simon a whole lot of credit for the resis. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, he made them, they're decent quality, like whatnot, but that's still, that credit goes to Bud Orr a long time ago. And then everybody just picked up and ran with it from there. All right, so we got, all right, I can shoot my res anytime. Trevor's Field should be open soon. Yeah, here's hoping. I would love to get out there. And the EMAC has a lot of options going on to hot rod it. No, the EMAC has a lot of options as far as aftermarket parts. The only thing that they really have that hot rods it is the little hair trigger, the inside, which is which classifies as a hot rod. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't consider that a lot of options. You have a little switch inside that makes it shoot a little different. Now you can get a different trigger for it, and you can get a different body for it. But for the most part, the internals stay the same. Unless I'm missing something, please correct me, because I would love to be. No, I'm not one of those guys that has to be right. I would rather be wrong and learn. So but for what I know, all there is there's that little valve, which is awesome, and that does count as modifying it. But the whole EMAC itself, like if you want to take the frame off, or you wanted to swap the valve out or the regulator out for a different type of regulator, whatnot, the whole thing is what it is, and you can't just change it. All right, and Jake says resis are decent for the price. Unfortunately, they were plagued with poor seals, few mods, and they got a lot better. See, and that's par for the course with autocockers. Like, very rarely back in the day did you get the perfect autococker out of the box, which is why they were considered Harley Davidsons of the time. They just you had to modify them to keep them going. And we got someone here says aftermarket soft tip bolt. Yeah, I'm not sure if that counts as hot rodding it though. I mean, I guess it does make it shoot better in theory, assuming that it works. But and then my TK5 Dragon Timber would be sweet if I could make it more efficient. See, and that's what I'm talking about, Scott. Why can't we get companies that start making I don't know, better. All right, and we got okay, so Tippmann E-Bolt for 98 series hot rod. Yes, because you've got the 98, and then you put in electronics for it to make it shoot better. I assume E is electronic, right? And I never sent you the picture. My apologies, completely forgot. I will get on that after the show. I apologize. By the way, Frank Connell obviously needs no introduction. When we were at World Cup, I took a picture of him with Tim's mom, Jennifer Montresor, and I promised I would send him a picture, and I slipped my mind. So Frank, my apologies. I apologize in front of the millions and billions of viewers. I do apologize, but I will get on it. Please remind me, or right when the show's over, but I get a little mixed up at times, so I apologize for that. All right. Yeah, the E-Bolt has a 9 volt. Yeah, and but that counts as hot rodding a paintball gun because you took a gun that had a certain amount of performance, you dropped in a new parts, and it became more performance. So anyway, that's my theory. And all right. Get him, Kevin. Get him. And we got Kenny Stewart saying, thanks, Steve. Thanking me for what, good sir? Oh, just talking with you. No problem. So I basically said everything I need to say, and I've rambled on for about 45 minutes. I don't really have a whole lot other to talk about real quick. I don't know if anybody wants to ask me any questions before we go or before I wrap it up. Give everybody a little bit of a chance. It's good to see Kevin Donaldson, Frank Connell, Kenny Stewart, all my regulars, really. And I really appreciate everybody for chiming in and helping me with this because I just wanted to do things a little bit different. Best electrode to hot rod was an Impulse. I don't remember what you could actually modify with the Impulses. I mean, they were cool and all, don't get me wrong. But I would argue that the best electrode to modify was the E-bladed autococker because it's an autococker and there was so many things to change because that would actually change the performance. But the Impulse was always just the Impulse. There wasn't a lot of aftermarket frames or aftermarket engines, things like that. I would argue that the best electrode to modify was the E-blade because it counts as an electro. And all right, so we got the Impulse. You got trigger, tapeworm, QEVs, eyes. Yeah, you know what? That's valid. That's definitely valid. Yep, because with the eyes and the QEVs, that makes perfect, Brent. So you are 100% right. See, I like being wrong because I learn. So thank you, Brent. Great idea. Great concept. All right. And when did you start in the sport? 1989. A store opened up and in my hometown called Mad Mike's, and I'd never seen it really before. That's not entirely true. I'd seen pictures about it in the magazine. I had a Great Canadian Survival Game hat. Wish I knew what happened to that. That I got at the Sportsman Show years prior. But yeah, I bought a Nightmare Competition short barrel and the UVEX goggles and a PMI mask, and I was out playing a few weeks later at a place called the Great White Bear Hunt in the Ganaraska Forest in Ontario. All right, and Jay, I don't think he gets it. I'm not sure who doesn't get what. Okay, and West Coast or East Coast or West? If that question for me, I live in Toronto, so that kind of puts me on the East Coast-ish, sorta. But as for what's better, West Coast is usually better just because they get to play all year round, although with indoor fields and whatnot now. I would be arguing that there's a lot of East Coast teams that kick some serious ass. And we got some legends in here. Yes, we've always got legends in here. And Brent from Rochester, awesome. I have a bunch of friends in New York. Team Blizzard. They are part of the Ali Remembered Foundation and whatnot, and they play in your neck of the woods. And then, of course, you've got Kevin Donaldson and whatnot. He's in New York as well. But yeah. And okay. Thank you. Kenny Stewart says, you're a great Steve. Keep up the great work. I appreciate the dedication to the show. You're welcome. Sorry I didn't get this done yesterday, but you know, stuff comes up, things happen, but you know, I still had to do it. I still wanted to get it done. And I really thought that this was an interesting topic. I want people to start talking about it. Now, I mean, obviously there's going to be people out there that says it's not worth it, or they'll give you a whole slew of reasons why it can't be done. But I'm calling BS on that, because there's like what, 3-4 companies dedicated just to rebuilding automags and keeping them upgraded and keeping them up to date. Like, they build bodies and they build grips, and like the regs are still the internal regs are still made. I wouldn't be surprised if there's been aftermarkets at some point or another. But if there's enough of a following for automags, which are a fantastic gun, don't get me wrong, but they, like, I love them. Like, hell, I got a purple one right there. Like, I love the gun. But there's no reason to say why there couldn't be some enthusiast that doesn't create a company that says, you know what, I'm going to start bringing hot rod parts back, and let's bring back some of the early 2000 guns and let's get them singing again, because there's so many wicked custom guns out there. And I honestly believe people would use them like crazy if the parts were available. Like, when I was getting back into the sport in the last few years, and I was like, well, I want an Ego. Everybody's saying, well, don't get an Ego because they have solenoid issues. And if the solenoid goes, the gun isn't worth replacing. Why can't somebody create a frame or an aftermarket solenoid that works just as well? Like, why can't it be done? I mean, if there's all these, the hundreds of thousands of guns out there, I'm not sure how many Egos were made, but like lots. There's all these guns out there, and people are scared to use them because they're scared that the solenoid may go. Or if the solenoid goes, now the gun is just a wall hanger. And they loved it. They played with it the whole time. Why can't we get aftermarket solenoids that do the trick? Like, I don't get it. And anybody that says, well, it can't be done or it's not cost effective, I disagree. I mean, if they're doing it for automags, and if Benchmark made it for all the frames for all the autocockers and all, like, it has to be possible, even if it's done in limited runs, special orders, kind of like way Skyfi's doing. It's like, who has an interest in more autococker boards, and they make it, and bam. All right, so we got Daryl Gilbert saying, I remember the days you wouldn't look at a mag. Remember, you used to wear the old focus paper. Yes, Daryl, this is true. So for those of you that don't know, Daryl is a very old friend of mine. I managed a paintball field-ish called Phaser Zone, except that it shot rubber balls and it hit a radio vest, and it went in on... Oh, forgot to turn my phone off. It went on, what's it called? A big scoreboard. It was all radioactive, radio broadcast, not radioactive. But speaking of radioactive, the whole thing was indoors, and the whole thing was in black lights, and the balls glow in the dark. So it was like playing in Star Wars. It was absolutely cool. So, like, it was just, well, anyway, I met Daryl back when he was a teenager, and he was one of my refs, and he's still one of the coolest people. And if you guys get the chance, if you guys are ever, once COVID lifts and you ever need a good guide for hunting, fishing, things like that, Daryl here, he's the man. Like, he's just awesome. He is an excellent guide up in northern Saskatchewan, Alberta, whatnot, and he travels around a bit with different outfits and stuff. So, wicked guide. Anyway, moving on. And we got Kevin Donald saying, if you expect anyone to make the investment, there has to be demand to justify it. And I agree. You are 100% right. But it's not like I expect somebody to make the investment. I'm just wondering why nobody has. Because I have to believe that a lot of people out there have sentimental attachments to some of these old markers, and they're like, just wish that this could happen or that could happen. And I honestly believe in that old adage, if you build it, they will come. Like, it's not going to be fast, and it's going to be more of a work of love to start as a work of being paid. But with everybody having to work from home and everybody has to readjust and whatnot, I have to believe that there is a demand for it, but nobody's asking because nobody just thinks it can be done. Everybody believes, oh, it can't be done. And I refuse to accept that as a principle. I mean, will it be easy? No, I'm not saying it's easy. Nothing worthwhile is easy. Will a lot of people do it? Probably not. But I can't believe that there's all these guns from all these manufacturers out there that are sitting collecting dust, and people are looking at them and going, yeah, you know what? It doesn't work. And it's not modern enough, or it's not good enough. But it's quality parts, quality manufacturing, quality regs. It's already done set for a barrel. I have to believe that swapping an engine into it or making some aftermarket parts that would substitute for, like I said, the perceived solenoid issue with egos and whatnot. Like I have to believe that there has to be a way that can bring some of these guns back to life. And the best example of that is Sci-Fi, that's making all the boards for all the old guns to make them modern compliant, and he's selling out of those boards left, right, and center. I watch it on Facebook. They'll come up, people will order them on bulk, and then it's out and it's done. And he's the only one that's really doing it. Well, I shouldn't say the only one. Jake mentioned another company, I think, that was making stuff like that as well. But I have to believe that it's, I just have to believe that it's there. It's possible. It can be done. So anyway, guys, it's been an hour, and I think it's time to call it here. I've been chatting for a bit. I've said what I needed to say, or what I wanted to say. But thank you all for joining me tonight. I know it's not my normal interview, but every now and then you got to change things up a bit. By the way, in case for those of you just catching in, or if you hadn't watched before, this is my original Skyball jersey when I played with the Leader Factory team. So yeah, there wasn't that many of these jerseys made. I just found it while I was cleaning, so I had to show it off. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out. And please remember, if you're shopping online, don't hesitate to swing by Valken and use my discount code McGuire10. It's a one-time deal. You get 10% off your order, anything that's Valken related. So swing by the thing and see it and get a discount. But that is my show for tonight. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, keep your paint dry and play with passion. Have a good one. Good night.